My name is Judith Jennings, and I'm the coordinator of the Louisville Family Justice Advocates, which is an organization that combines art making with families that have incarcerated loved ones, policy change, and research and communication. So it's a hybrid organization, but those really all are connected. I promise you, we won't be doing any art making tonight, but this is definitely about we're really focused on local policies in Jefferson County relating to incarceration, and so that's how we came to the topic of phone justice. Um, uh, so, Aaron, would you be okay if we do a flip on the if I'm going to talk a little bit more, but then if you could go first of the speaker since Nikkia and on yet, okay. So phone justice is a national movement that's been going on for about 10 years across the whole United States. And a wonderful writer who visited Louisville in April and wrote a book called The Shadow System, Mass Incarceration, the Impact of Mass Incarceration on American Families, recently had an article in Politico about phone justice and nationally. And Rebecca's gonna put that link to that article in the chat. And if you're interested in knowing more about that, you can see what's happening around the United States. Basically, the situation is there's two global prison industrial complex type corporations that are dominating the prison phone systems right now. And one of those big companies is called Securus Technologies. And the charge here in Louisville for someone in our Louisville Metro Department of Corrections is $9.99 for a person incarcerated to call out. They have to call collect. So if you're making a phone call, it's up to 15 minutes maximum. So in our city, that's the going rate for incarcerated people to call loved ones, service providers to meet with their lawyers, $9 per 15 minutes, $9.99 per 15 minutes. So that's the basic issue that we want to talk about tonight. And we're going to have a couple of speakers from the community that have direct experience with phones, the impact of phone call prices. And the first one is, to start us off, is as an attorney and also a longtime ally of Louisville Family Justice Advocates. It's Aaron Bentley. So, Aaron.
Hey everyone, I'm Aaron. As I said in the chat, I'm a lawyer here in town. I handle prisoners' rights cases and police misconduct cases. So that means that a lot of times I have clients who are incarcerated in the Louisville jail. So I don't handle criminal cases, so I don't necessarily have to deal with the fact of how hard it is for people incarcerated there to call people outside. But when I talk to my clients who are there, I hear a lot about their issues that they have with using the phone. So I think there's two main issues that people incarcerated at the Louisville jail have when it comes to using the phone to access legal services, which is mainly what I want to talk about. So the first one is just trying to get a lawyer to help on your criminal case, whatever you've been detained for, immediately. So if you have the money to contact a lawyer, it's still, unless you know who the person is and their phone number, it's very hard for you to be able to contact someone because, as Judy said, it's going to cost you $10 on the low end to talk to someone. But two, there is the ability to have a free legal call from the jail, but you have to know who you're calling. You have to know the phone number, and most importantly, you have to rely on the staff of the jail to let you make the call if you want to use it for free. So that's a big issue for people. And it's even worse if you're someone who can't afford to hire a lawyer, because all you're going to have to do is wait until you're arraigned to be assigned a public defender. So you're going to be stuck in jail for, probably 3 days without getting a chance to talk to someone. Now, on the other side of that, after you've actually gotten a lawyer, but you want to talk to your attorney, there's a couple of problems with that. If your attorney isn't calling you, and this is a real problem for people with public defenders, but I'm sure, because that's mostly who I talk to, but I'm sure it's also a problem for people with retained lawyers. If they're not calling you enough and you need to talk to them, unless you can get the staff to give you a free call, just to call out on your own accord, you're going to have to pay that $9.90 that Judy was talking about. Now, the kind of third thing, I'm not sure how many things I said there was at the beginning, but now I'm on number 3. So I think I said 2, but now I'm on number 3. So the third one is where I kind of come in. Let's say something bad happens to you in the jail, which unfortunately happens all too often, and you need to talk to a lawyer who might be able to help you with your civil rights issues. Unless, well, first of all, I'm about the only person there is to call, me and my law partner. So unless you know our number, you can't just get on the phone and start calling around trying to find somebody because of the call charge issues. So you're just kind of stuck unless you get my address or get somebody else's address and can get us to call you. So you can kind of see the myriad ways in which it just makes it so much harder to have your rights in the criminal system and in the civil system vindicated because you don't have that easy access to phone calls.
Good. Thank you, Aaron. That was great. I understand the law now.
Yes.
No, we're going to have, that was good. We're going to have time for questions. We have another one of our speakers coming up next, and we have probably 3. One is having internet trouble, but hopefully she'll be able to join us. And it's my Shiro, Miss LaDonna. And she has a worker, she works with detox. And what effects does it have? Have you seen the impact of the cost of phone calls in the Louisville Metro Jail on your work in drug addiction and recovery?
Hi, Judy.
Hi.
So you're talking to me, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So yes. Basically, yes. So our calling sometimes should be involved with like people that's calling from the system. And I'm sorry because I'm in the car with somebody and they're talking on the phone, so I'm kind of having a hard time here trying to focus. I was on my way to work and my car's not working, so it's just a whole thing.
We got it.
So yeah, I'm about to pull up to my job now. But yeah, so basically, people being able to communicate and use the phone is a very big barrier. Even trying to come into treatment, and sometimes we used to get a lot of collect calls when people would use their one call to call us because they needed a bed in order to get out of jail for treatment. So, that one call could save their life, literally. Like, they would have access to treatment because I take in heart those calls from jail because I was a person that was impacted by being incarcerated myself. So I know what it is, that one important phone call that you need to get through, and it's a lifeline. So when they call me, I immediately stop what I'm doing and stay focused and pay attention and make sure I communicate with whoever I need to communicate to help them out as much as possible, because I know it's few and far in between that they'll be able to use the phone again. And, like also, and I appreciate the person who was speaking before me. Yes, because also, like, I was a person incarcerated and I basically needed that one phone call too. It was a time when my family hadn't heard from me for months on end. And when I got incarcerated and was finally got situated and settled, I needed to communicate with them that I was still alive, that I was still, in the land of the living and where I was at. And my children, my child at the time had, been asking about me. So it basically gave them a peace of mind knowing that I was alive and well and where I was at. And, I think that phone call is very important, especially now, right now, during the holidays, especially. You know, I mean, everybody should be empathetic and sympathetic to people speaking to their loved ones as we near the holidays. So basically, yeah, I mean, like, they are very important. Like I said, it could be a matter of life and death. That call they might make can be to a treatment center to help save their life. And it could be life-changing. And like I said, I used to get a lot of phone calls from people that was incarcerated, but now now that, you know, all this has been brought to the forefront, now it all makes sense. You know, they're not able to make those phone calls as frequently anymore.
Right.
If at all.
Right. Thank you. Whoa, that was heartfelt. I knew. Yeah, she tells the truth. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You. Yeah, I appreciate you. I know you got a lot going, so thanks for being with us. And I didn't really tell the people before, the way the money, the expense of the calls goes to the family, or who they do a collect call. If the call isn't free, like to your attorney, it's a collect call. So who receives the call has to pay the $9.99. And so if you don't, some people are in there, they can't pay their bill. So then they can't pay for their $10 phone calls either. So it kind of like piles on that. So thank you. I really appreciate you. You're the best, Latonya. Stay on as long as you can. So now we have Nikkia Rhodes, Chef Nikkia Rhodes, who I love to death. And she is a true and real chef with the Lee Initiative, and also a teacher of culinary arts at Iroquois High School. And she wants to talk about how keeping in touch with her dad was so important to her when she was a young girl growing up.
Hey everybody, thank you so much, Judy, for having me. It's been forever since I've seen you and some of the other people on here, and it's just nice to see familiar faces, even if it's through a screen. So I'm here tonight just to kind of share a little bit about my background and just advocate and use my platform and my voice to say that, yeah, we need to do some type of reform for our phone calls. I actually, so as Judy mentioned before, I grew up with a single mom. My dad was in and out of jail and was incarcerated for most of my childhood. And right now I currently have a brother who's in prison in LaGrange, Kentucky. So he actually just wrote me about an hour ago and was like, sis, can you please put $10 on my card and or put $10 on my phone, because so-and-so tried to do it yesterday and they kept getting an error message. So that happens once every week or every 2 weeks or so. He'll call and he'll ask me for money for phone or for snacks. Which I'm happy to give when I have it, but there are times when I don't. I'm a teacher, and teachers don't make a lot of money, so I also do a lot of side work, and then in the meantime of doing all the side work, you know, I might have money to send them, but then I don't have time to talk to them. So it's really tough trying to balance that. There was a time over the summer where I was working really hard, and I told my brother, I was like, can you please make sure you call me on Sundays, because that's my off day. If you call me on Sunday, I'm more likely to answer. So you know, it's really important just to be able to have contact with someone, like Latonya was saying, just to know that someone's okay. My brother has a 7-year-old daughter that he doesn't get to talk to, and going through COVID and everything that he sees just on the news and how media portrays things happening in Louisville, he's terrified that he can't check on his family. And one of those barriers is just simply money. A lot of people have lost their jobs, and they can't keep sending him money so that he can call whenever he wants to. So it's tough, and it's really inhumane to me I understand, like, if one person does a crime, but to punish an entire family, and, you know, put that financial burden on someone, it's really tough. We got to figure out a way to support them, to support people and the families. They didn't do anything, so they should be able to still have contact with their loved one, regardless of what that incarcerated person has done. It's still someone's loved one.
Thank you, Miss Nikkia. You're always tell it like it is. So appreciate you so much to be here. The Louisville Family Justice Advocates video visiting, which was the only kind of visiting that was allowed at the jail, ended on March 13th. So there has not been any visual contact. between the people in the jail and their families over the last 7 months. So we're, on Monday, Louisville Family Justice Advocates and some allies, community allies, have called on the jail to provide free phone calls, at least 2 free phone calls a week to every person in the jail until the visiting, video visiting opens again. And also to provide COVID information about how many cases there are and how they're treating the people with cases, because right now there's no public knowledge. And so if people don't see their loved one or have to pay $10 to talk to them, they have no idea what the condition is that person's in. And so we have asked them to, and also to give us a plan of when video visiting might be open again. The Louisville Family Justice Advocates has a project called the Special Project that Alicia Roby works with that's on this call. And every year for over 10 years, every week for over 10 years, we went to the visitors lobby and we did art activities in the visitors lobby with the families there, because they had to wait 2 or 3 hours for their video visiting, 20 minutes video visiting. And we know those families want to see their loved ones, and the little kids, especially, like Nikkia said, we have some great pictures of Nikkia and her dad. You know, the 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds and toddlers, they want to see their loved one, you know, and with their eyes, and or talk to them if they can. So it's we've asked the jail to provide free phone calls, and we asked them to reply by next Tuesday to let us know, because we found that often they don't reply to us, and we even about asking for information, it's very hard to get communication there, and we know that they've got a lot going on. But it's in this place where we are now, that criminal justice institutions really need to be accountable to the public and transparent with their charges and with their communications. So what we did, we wanted to do this call for is to put the issue out so people can see how phone calls costing $9.99 do have real effect and impact on real people in our community. We also want to have, we know that the Securus contract, which is costing that much, is going to be up for renegotiation come in January, and we're going to see if we can take a hard look at that contract and change the way the phone call costs it, but that's a lot of money, so it's going to be hard. So we wanted to start getting people informed about phone justice and see who's interested in it, and have this event tonight to be able to answer any questions you all might have, or get the people, hear more from the people who are directly experienced in the impact of the phones in our city, in the jail. So does anybody have any questions from the group that's been listening, that or if any of the speakers have a question for each other, please feel free to just go ahead and ask your question.
This is your newbie, and I probably have more than anybody, but first of all, when did this rule about paying for a phone call come into existence?
Well, it's a year-to-year contract that all of the LMDC negotiates with the jail. So it's been more important now, so we're paying more attention to it with the video visiting flows. So Aaron, do you have any idea how long it, I mean, I think this is a national problem. The Securus, those are the rates Securus usually charges across the country. And one reason it's so expensive is that the jail gets a commission of kickback from each of those calls. So that's why they're not going to want to probably give free calls, because they will lose that. But that's, again, a national practice, but some states are telling Securus that their states won't make a commission. They won't take a commission. So it's expensive because 2 people are getting profits off of, well, getting payments from it.
Well, the other question I had, is it true at every jail, like ours out in LaGrange, that one has the same rule?
You should check because it's the who makes the contract with Securus. So as far as I know, every jail, Kentucky has 120 counties, so we have almost 120 jails. Every jail might have a separate contract, or they might be under Kentucky Department of Corrections contract, and that they are also with Securus. If you're in, so you should ask your jailer or your mayor or your that's the thing, is I think people haven't asked the questions about how much are phone calls in my own jail, because unless you're making them, unless you're inside the jail trying to make them, you might not be aware.
I'll just say from my experience from having clients in jails and prisons all over the state, that on the county level, it is different. The counties might have their own contract with someone else, but I've yet to encounter a county jail in Kentucky that doesn't have a contract with one of these companies to make the people who are incarcerated there pay. And on the state level, the Kentucky Department of Corrections has one contract, and those are also prohibitively expensive calls, several dollars a minute, to call anybody. So yeah, this is a problem at every jail and every prison in Kentucky.
Yeah, and across the nation too. That's one thing about, and that's what makes it hard to deal with, because you have to take it at the local level. And since Ben is on the phone from the Center for Health Equity, I'm going to say we've also said this is a health issue for both the people inside the jail and their families. I think Nikkia made a really good point about how it affects the families, and Latonya too, knowing where their family member is. It's a mental and physical stress on the families and on the people inside the jail not to be able to maintain the contact with their families, the service providers too.
Judy, we have another question in the comments.
Okay.
This is from Hina Akram. Are there any restrictions as to who can make phone calls and who cannot? For example, would a certain level of offender be not allowed to make a phone call? And are these phone calls recorded? Oh, and Nikkia just answered, all phone calls are recorded and monitored.
Yeah,
calls if the person uses, a family member uses like the JPay app, because that's another thing that we can use to communicate. All of it's recorded and monitored. Letter, picture, video, phone call, everything's recorded and monitored.
So mostly in the jail, I'm going to get Aaron in on this too, but we're talking about the jail. So those are mostly misdemeanors, although there are prisoners with higher level offense, people with higher level offenses that are inside there waiting to be tried or waiting to be moved to a different. But basically at our jail, there's 1,200 people, over 1,200 people in our jail now. The capacity is 1,353. The last time we heard, there were 196 cases of COVID. So there's really not any way that people could be safe, I don't think, unless they're having extremely good health protocols. And I don't know if, Ben, do you want to say anything about that or not?
Sure, I can speak to that a little bit. So first of all, I think one of the things that's really confusing when they report the numbers is sort of the way they were reporting the positivity rates previously. They give a cumulative account, which is not representative. So they've done, over 3,000 tests, but to your point, Judy, there are only 1,200 people there now. So, the number of positive test results since March is, around 200, but that doesn't mean that there are currently 200 incarcerated people who are COVID positive. So that is some feedback that we've given from the health department, is that it would be more helpful in the press releases that they list how many active current cases they have, because there are a number of people who are incarcerated who had COVID and no longer have COVID. They're recovered, which is great. And there are a number of people who were incarcerated with COVID, recovered and were released. So, it's not as bad of an outbreak as we've seen elsewhere, but because of the conditions in the jail, it remains a really high area of concern for the health department, because we recognize that you can't socially distance in the same way. In terms of the precautions that have been taken, since March, the health department was able to do surveillance testing, which it's the only jail in the state that's done that. And most jails don't have a health department with the capacity to do that. So we've been testing asymptomatic folks, which helps us kind of keep ahead of the epidemiological curve, as opposed to waiting until people are already sick, at which point it's spread throughout the jail. They have 3 different dorms that they're able to use for quarantine and isolation. And they're currently able to provide a 10-day quarantine for new people being admitted. And so that's another way that they can kind of monitor people. Of course, the staff of the jail are residents of our county and exist outside of the jail as well. So as a result, that also means that they're among the most likely people to bring, who are going in and out of the jail on a daily basis. So they are continuing to pose a risk to the population who's incarcerated, that they'll bring it in. And then, of course, from a public health perspective, I can state that mass arrests of protesters, of people who are out in the community and then who are very quickly cycled through the jail, are a huge exposure for bringing in the virus. They've definitely, from sort of the CDC perspective, they're doing an outstanding job on sort of hitting all of the key risk reduction strategies, with the exception being a risk reduction strategy that's actually outside of their hands, which is population. And the issues around, to your point, that they're close to capacity, jail capacities are not made with pandemics in mind. So while you could safely have 1,300 people in that building, that doesn't mean that during a pandemic, it's a smart policy. I mean, as we're seeing with the capacity in, say, office buildings, right? Like, we're reducing dramatically what those capacities are based off of the need to keep people 6 feet apart. So that is an area where other criminal justice partners certainly could be reducing the population, police arresting fewer people, judges opting for lower rates of pretrial detention, and sort of Commonwealth attorney and county attorney making different decisions about what they want people doing at this time. But in terms of things with the jail, I think that the mental health component of just the uncertainty is an area where phone calls could do a world of good, both for people inside to know that their family members know they're being cared for, or at minimum that they're not currently infected, and for people on the outside to not be worried about that. I mean, this is a anxiety-provoking time for everybody in the world right now, and having an incarcerated family member only amplifies that anxiety.
Thank you, Ben. Do you think they will make any of the information that you said public? I think it would help people that have incarcerated loved ones to know they're getting the kind of care they're getting. So I don't know. I know you don't have control of that, but
we have recommended that would be a useful piece of information, and it reflects well on LMG. So I think I can't comment as to why that's a choice they're making to not share that information.
Yeah. And Aaron was also answering some of the previous questions in the chat about the phone calls. And you said sometimes that attorney phone calls are recorded, Aaron? Recorded?
Yeah, I think it's likely that all attorney phone calls are recorded, but sometimes we find out that they've been recorded. So yeah, that's particularly problematic when it comes to criminal cases, because that's often how people are talking to their, one of the only ways, especially right now, people are able to talk to their attorneys over the phone. And so they could say something that is bad for their criminal case. It's hard for me right now because I usually refuse to talk over the phone about substantive parts of cases with my clients because of the potential of the call being recorded. But right now it's also, you know, not the best idea to spend a lot of time in jails if you can avoid it. So I'm not doing a lot of visits to jails. So it's, yeah, it's a tough time for being able to stay in contact with our clients.
Well, I wanted to be mindful of the time. I know everybody's got, I really appreciate you all being here. I don't mind to stay around for more questions, but we know that we were trying to keep this down to 30 minutes, just information. If anybody has one last question that.
We do have one last one in the chat, and that's how can folks get involved right now?
Oh, okay, good. Oh, yay, what a great question. So if you want to, we'll add you to our LFJA list, contact list, and we're hoping that the jail will reply positively to our letter for the free phone calls and other information. Yes, and Rebecca just put our website on there. You can sign up on the website. If the jail doesn't reply, or if they reply and say they can't do anything, then we will put more. This is, right now, we just asked the jail, and we didn't make it a public campaign. But if they don't respond, especially if they don't respond at all, then we will be asking more people to get in touch with them, and we might be doing press release and different other social media actions to get their attention, because we found out over the 10 years, the way they usually, they just don't answer. And so we might have to break through some silence, but hopefully they will respond to our requests. And then we will be contesting the contract with Securus. And I don't know, the contract isn't up till January, but I don't know when negotiations start. We'll let you know about that if you just sign up on our website or for our Gmails. And Alicia, you want to have the last word?
The last word. Yeah, I just wanted to chime in and say, you know, to Andrea, who asked how she can get involved. I think, well, for one, thank you for asking, but taking in this information and doing a little bit of research and then talking about this in your network is the first step to getting involved. Holidays are coming up. If your family is one that is divided, these are facts about the reality of the situation that you can use to arm yourself in those difficult situations. I've already started to see it explode in my family. So going into the holidays, I'm going to arm myself with the facts and then combine that with the true story of the humanity that folds into this situation. So that's all I wanted to add.
That's great. Alicia is one of our special project team members that did art activities for a long time, many years in the jail, and she's really a great team member. So thanks for that. Yeah, getting informed and is the most important thing, because people just don't know about it. And the article from Sylvia A. Harvey from Politico is very helpful. It's very written in a very accessible way. It's a national picture of it, but you can now fill in the Louisville side of it from this conversation.